Te presentamos House of Gods, una marca nueva pero candidata a ser líder en Latinoamérica con respecto a lo que es merchandising de bandas de metal. Y te explicamos el porqué. Todos los productos que compres a través de esta página son productos oficiales de las bandas. O sea, vas a tener acceso a diseños de primera calidad que no están disponibles en ningún lado. Y además el dinero de las compras que se generen van a ir directamente a las manos de tus artistas favoritos. Por lo que, con cada compra, aportás para que ellos puedan seguir activos y creando el arte que tanto nos gusta. Aparte, gracias a tus aportes, hacen donaciones periódicas a diferentes organizaciones de rescate y esterilización animal para mejorar la calidad de vida de muchos animales sin hogar. Así que, si necesitas merch oficial de tus bandas favoritas, pedíselo a House of Gods. Envíos a toda Latinoamérica. Hola gente, ¿qué tal están el día de hoy? Les tengo un invitado increíble. Estoy muy emocionado porque estamos con Oystein Brun de la banda Borknagar. Hi Oystein, how are you?
I am perfectly fine. It's beautiful weather in Bergen now, so enjoying life basically. All good.
Perfect. Today we are going to talk about various things related to Borknagar's career and his latest album True North. So my first question is, how was the band born and what does the name Borknagar mean?
Actually, it's not doesn't mean anything. It's entirely a fantasy name. You know, back in the day, I just wanted to have a band name which had an own personality in a sense. I didn't want to, 20 years into the career suddenly have a band name that doesn't suit, the musical concept. Because for me, the whole idea about Borknagar was about making a musical entity that, I can run forever in a sense, or do forever, not limited by a epoch in my life or a musical style or anything like that. So I wanted to have a name that basically means one thing, and that's the band. Of course, it's influenced by Northern mythology and some references on some movies and stuff like that, kind of Bork and Nagar, which is like, I remember when I was a kid, I read a fairy tale from the Scottish Highlands about a guy, climbing over the Mount Lochnagar. And that kind of, chimed well in my ears. So kind of combined with did my own twist on things basically, and that was this, as I said, the intention. I wanted to have a name which was sort of timeless in a sense, that doesn't have any restrictions or anything like that.
Perfect. Next question. How was the writing and recording process for True North?
Awesome. I mean, we had a really great time. I mean, there is a lot of phases in making an album. I mean, the basic starting, making riffs, trying out riffs and all that stuff. And those things, I do a lot of stuff in my studio here, and don't do my kind of basic work in terms of making my scratches for my songs and the basic IDs, record them and stuff like that. But also on this album, on True North, we actually invested quite a lot of both time and money on being together as a band, actually. The guys came over to my studio, for example, when we did the vocals. The three of us, me, Lars, and Simon, just hanging around in studio for 4 days, something like that, locking ourselves in with a little bit of food and quite a lot of beer, and just recording it, kind of thing, producing together as a unit. The same thing with the new guys, the guitarist Oystein, also he came over to my studio, we sat in studio, and so this time around we kind of we had the idea that we wanted to go a little bit back to the old days, in a sense, where you actually work as a band together under the same roof, in a sense. With the whole digital revolution, I think a lot of bands, including us, went a little bit astray with just sitting at home alone, making riffs on a computer, sending files on the internet and stuff like that. And that's efficient. That's a awesome way to work in many ways. But as a band unit, we kind of felt the urge to work a little bit more together as a unit, so to speak, as a social group.
Yeah.
And so we did. That was great. And I think we're gonna, do pretty much the same formula for the next album. So we had a really good time, creative. We kind of pushed ourselves a little bit, each other a little bit. The whole process of being under the same roof in the same room when being creative, that was a really cool thing to do.
Okay, Perfect. How, where, and in how long was the video for the song Voices made?
I don't exactly remember. I guess we spent a month or something like that, and that was, I think, roughly a month we from the start to finish, and that was basically done by Lars. He has a long career within the whole filming industry, making TV and being a producer for TV programs and stuff like that. So he had some connections and some people he trusted and stuff like that. So I think he pulled it off. From when I heard about the ideas and what the whole concept of it till the end result, I think we spent like pretty much a month or something like that. But that was, and credits to Lars, because that was a lot of his work put in there, so to speak. Of course, we was involved, everybody. We had our opinion on things and stuff like that. But in the end of the day, that video was Lars. He was producing it, basically.
Good. Okay, next question.
Mm-hmm.
What are the lyrics of this album about?
That's an interesting theme, because, in the past, we have always, I would say we've been more on the fantasy side of things, more philosophic, a little bit, these very big thoughts about life and philosophy and all that. But for the last album, True North, I think we all wanted to get a little bit back to the real world, in a sense, to real life. And our way of doing that was to try to basically boil down the lyrics, make them more direct, make them more as a concept, an idea, or what can I say, instead of previous lyrics. And a lot of songs I've done through the years has been a lot of basically a chain of thoughts. And sometimes I don't remember. People ask me, what is this song, deal about and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't remember what I was singing back then, because I kind of wrote it when I was thinking. But for True North, we kind of sharpen the knife a little bit in terms of being very kind of close to life, to reality and stuff like that. And I think I mix between, a lot of things, basically. But speaking about myself, I lost my father during the release of Winter Tries. The day after the release of Winter Tries, I had to go to the burial of my father. And for me, that was a really tough time, the whole, and then we went straight on touring and a lot of traveling and stuff like that. And when I finally sat back down in studio, had some peace and quiet for myself and started to reflect about, what has happened the last couple of years. I've been in heaven and hell, kind of, in hell with, the whole situation with my father, losing my father for mysterious reasons. We still don't know why he died. And on the other hand, we had quite good success with the tries. And I was kind of lingering between that, kind of bouncing between the ups and downs of life, in a sense. And that gave me the kind of idea that for True North, I wanted to get the lyrics a little bit more into the real life, to be more direct. And the lyrics on this album has a more defined meaning, I would say, a point or an idea, so to speak. So I guess that's a big difference. And the lyrics, they have much the same feeling, the same notion, the same perspective, I would say, as things you have done in the past. But still, it's, we for example, the song Tidal, the second last song on the album, is a very personal lyrics for me, because it's a fascinating concept from nature, basically. I was once watching a documentary about mooses in Norway, the Scandinavian moose, which is quite big, like the king of the nature in Norway kind of thing. And they have a path they wander every year. And kind of interesting thing about this is that the scientists know that these mooses died out at some point during the Ice Age. They completely was kind of wiped out from this part of the world. But when the Ice Age kind of disappeared or melted away, so to speak, the mooses came back and they started to wander the exact same path as they've always done. And that's kind of interesting. And the scientists in this documentary said that we have no idea how they do it. Everything has changed. There is houses, there is streets, the landscape have changed. Still, the mooses keep on going the same route as they've done for generation. And that was a point I kind of tried to bring into the humans, as human beings, kind of thing, that we are all different. We come from different countries. Some of us like to travel, some do not. And, we are all so different, but in the same time, we are so alike in a sense. We are all humans. And you know, this is a kind of interesting, to me, a very interesting perspective on life, because we are so different as human beings, but still we are so extremely alike on most of the things, at least a lot of things. We basically want to have a good life, everybody. And that's also something that chimes in, you know, when we are touring South America, USA, you know, whatever country we're touring, when we are meeting fans, that is kind of a striking, you know, it's just fascinating how different we are, and we meet a lot of people, but still we are so damn like in a sense, because we just want to have a good life. So that's kind of the concept of one of the songs on the album, for example. And of course we have this song called Wildfather's Heart, and that was basically, to be honest, that was about me. You know, when my father was dying, there was like 2 months he was like needed breathing help and stuff like that, was unconscious, drugged down and all that stuff, and I was sitting with him all day on the hospital and tried to support and, you know, try to do my best, but little I could do really. And I felt so small, even though I'm a big guy kind of thing. So I kind of started when I drove back home from the hospital in the evenings. I just sat down in my studio and kind of, okay, I have to get something out. I have to just, you know, get my feelings in, I don't know, just get it out there somehow. And that turned out to be the Wildfather's Heart song. And of course the lyrics is very kind of inspired by this whole thing of losing my father. And, you know, that is a thing, again, that is a thing that everybody in some degree experience. At some point you will lose your father or mother or sister or something like that kind of thing. So again, very universal concept. But we tried to do it in a kind of, or I tried to do it in a very, in honorable way towards my father, because he was a very, in my opinion, in my world, he was the big king in life. You know, he was my teacher in so many ways. He was my best friend. He was my, inspiration from, you know, music. He was a music lover back in the day. He teach me to listen, he showed me all the music he had back in the day. So I owe him so much. So I had this feeling that, what can I give back? And, you know, the least thing I could do is to make a song that pay him some respect. And that's what I did, basically.
Perfect. So what is it like to work with Century Media Records?
Century Media, I've been working with them since I was a kid, basically. I've been signed to Century Media more or less for 25 years or something like that. And, you know, it's ups and downs, but overall, I have to say that there is a reason why Century Media is still around. It's a big label. They do their job. They, you know, good guys. They are professional. And what I like with Century Media, to be honest, is the fact that they are professional, of course, as a record company. They have their, you know, their networking, they have their way of working, all that. But, you know, all the guys on this label is very passionate about what they're doing. I mean, it's not, of course, it's business. It has to be business, because if not, it's not a label. But they, in my opinion, have this fine balance between being professional, being business, and all that stuff that you have to do in terms of running a company, but also being very passionate about what they are doing. Very dedicated, and, you know, it's good. It's a good corporation, and I guess we're gonna stick around for a couple of albums more, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, I have nothing really bad to say about Century Media. That said, of course, there has been ups and downs. I mean, there has been disagreements. There has been probably some arguments also throughout the years. But, I mean, you can't walk through life without, you know, having some disagreements. But in the big scope of things, it's a great label. It's a great people, and loads of people that works on Century Media is good friends of mine. So it's both a personal but also a professional relationship that is good for both of us, I would say.
What are your main musical influences?
Wow. Always, that's always difficult to answer, even though it should be quite simple. You know, if you asked me when I was 19 years old, I would probably say, 5 of favorite bands. But, you know, I'm 45 now, actually 46. Oh, man. I don't know really anymore. I mean, I listen to all sorts of music. I have kids that grows up now, and my daughter is 19 years old. I listen to some music she listened to. I've been doing music, and also the past 5 years also doing a lot of studio productions. So, and I guess that's a little bit of the downside of being working with music so much as I do that when I have time off, I basically want silence, to be honest. But favorite bands, our favorite styles, everything and nothing basically. Good music is good music and bad music is bad music in my opinion. Lately I've listened a lot to some strange pop music, for example, like Sneaky Little Devil, for example. It's a really cool band nobody have heard about, and it has like 4,000 plays on Spotify or something like that. But it's great stuff. I like it. Yeah, it's metal, of course. I listen to a lot of metal, of course, because it's a lot of big part of my job as also a producer in my studio. So I listen to Spotify, trying to check out what's going on these days, how do things sound these days and stuff like that. I've always been a huge fan of Ulver, for example. I will have to admit, Garm, of course, my previous bandmate, so to speak. I love what he have done with Ulver the last 25 years. It's just brilliant. I've always been a huge fan of Pink Floyd. That's one of my, in terms of music, that's my mothership. I mean, that's something beyond music, in my opinion. It's almost like a religion, or I don't know. It's Pink Floyd have always been it's a mothership of all music, in my opinion. At least the music I like. Yeah, so classic music. Sometimes I'm a big fan of movie soundtracks. Not everything, of course, but a lot of movies. I used to listen to a lot of movie soundtracks back in the day. Not so much anymore, but John Williams, lovely stuff. Some of it is a little bit cheesy and a little bit Hollywood and all that stuff, but still have done, it's so, in terms of melody, in terms of composing, in terms of arranging, it's so brilliant. So yeah, it's everything from classic music to blues, jazz, pop, fusion, punk, metal, everything basically.
What does the cover of this album represent?
It's for us. It's cover is always. Making music is not no problem. That's easy going. But to find a perfect cover is always, and also the album title is always difficult, because we spend so much time working on album ideas, music, and as you also probably know, our music is very diverse. There is a lot of different aspects to it and all that. So for me, making a cover or finding the right cover design is a tough one, because I feel it has to link up with the material in a sense. It has to be not a conclusion, but a spearhead in a sense, in terms of the album, a visual spearhead. And scrolling a little back in in ideas, when we, as I told you about the lyrics and stuff like that, we wanted things to be more honest, real, and straight in the face this time around with the lyrics. And the same with the cover. We was a little bit fed up with having this data digital design stuff going on. It looks brilliant and all that stuff, but we wanted to have something on the cover that you actually can, walk on. You can stand there, you can be there, you can touch it. So by coincidence, actually, I have a very good friend of mine, which is a nature photographer, and he does lot of nice, in my opinion, pictures from nature. And I just scrolled through his latest picture. This was, when we prepared this album, and I kind of saw this picture, and to me that was like, yes, that's it kind of thing, because it represents basically everything that the band is about in a sense. It's very simple, it's very real, it's a real mountain, it's a real picture. You can actually stand there and watch in the same mountain. Actually, the other day I got a journalist call me from north of Norway. They wanted to try to arrange a concert in front of this mountain. Let's see about that. But we wanted to have the cover to be a very kind of real life. You can touch it, you can feel it in a sense. And towards the album title, True North. True North is a kind of it's from navigation basically. It's a term from navigation where we kind of, if you get lost on sea or lost in the woods or whatever, you should try to find the true north, because if you know where the true north is, you know where west, south, and east is. So it's a kind of the baseline of navigation. So for me, this mountains kind of symbolize the haven, the safe, the constant in otherwise very kind of floating world. Everything is changing all the time. Everything is developing. World is different now than 10 years ago, and how will the world be in 20 years or something like that? We can't even imagine. And in all this chaos kind of thing, I mean, I like a lot with the evolution and evolution, all that. I of course support and enjoy that, but But there is something about clinging on to the roots, keeping on to something that is always there. And that's, you know, this mountain kind of represents for me. A mountain will always be there, at least in my lifetime. It won't change, it won't move, it won't be smaller or bigger, you know, in a sense. So, and also in all cultures, I mean, when I was young, I read a lot about Maya, Inca Indians and Maya Indians, for example, was very fascinated by those cultures. And, you know, there's a lot of old tradition has this idea about the mountain. You know, have mountain sickness, you have, you know, you get in touch with the gods if you go to the mountain, you know, a lot of different explanation. But there is, you know, through all these different perspective on the mountains, there is something with us humans and mountains. There is something about climbing up on a high mountain and just watching out, the silence, the peace, the beauty, everything about it. I have a huge mountain just behind me, which I've walked many times, and it's so lovely, it's so great, it's so, you feel so good and all that standing on the top of the mountain. But in the same time, it can be extremely dangerous. For instance, the mountain I'm talking about, it can turn in matter of 10 minutes and you can be in weather that is seriously dangerous. So it's kind of this Beauty and the Beast stuff about the mountain. It's so beautiful, it's so, make you so powerful. But you also get this notion that, oh man, if there is storms coming or bad weather coming, you feel so small. So it's you know, to me, the mountain is the peak of, so to speak, peak of or a symbol of life in terms, I mean, in the good side and the bad side. It's extremely good symbol of yeah, the contrasts in life, so to speak.
Okay, next question. Borknagar is a band that had in its ranks very important musicians when it comes to black metal. The question is, who was the person that you connected the best to work with, and who was the person with whom it became more difficult to work?
It all started out really as I had an idea, and me and the drummer, which is unfortunately dead now, kind of started to jam songs and all that stuff. And of course, we had a really good relationship in the early days, at least. We had a really close relationship for a long time. And, you know, things happened and we was young and, you know, all that stuff. But through the years, I mean, I think that me and Garm, I don't know if he feel the same, but me and Garm or Chris from Ulver, I feel that I remember when he joined the band and we traveled to Germany to record vocals and, you know, all the stuff we did together. We connected really nicely, I think. I mean, we are very different people in a sense, me and Chris. And I would say we are kind of almost the opposites in so many ways. But when it comes to music, we kind of have the same outlook on it in a sense. I don't know how to say it really, but so I feel that I still feel a very kind of connection with Chris, and we have good talks from time to time and all that. And you know, there has been some people along the line that, you know, I don't want to say anything negative about anyone. I mean, we have had our challenges. I've had my stuff going on with the band and all that stuff, but you know, that's history. So I don't, you know, feel like going into any conflicts or anything like that.
Have you had a bad experience in a concert or tour?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, depends on, you know, what, you know, yeah, many times. I mean, when you're on tour, shit happens. I mean, that's just the way of life. There is so many things that can go wrong, and usually something goes wrong. You know, there has been concerts I'm playing, my guitar has fucked up, been untuned, things like that. And you know, that freaks me out quite a lot, actually. I mean, that's something I'm always pissed on myself, even though I know that it's not my fault. I can't do anything with it and all that. But I feel this, actually people pay to see us, and people want to, you know, a concert and all that. I feel a very kind of responsible for actually delivering the goods, so to speak. I think that, you know, the whole music business is like that. It's very up and down. It's very kind of, one day everything is perfect, the concert is perfect, everything is smooth. The next day everything is catastrophe. So, you know, that's life on the road, I would say. But usually it turns out good. We have good people around us. We have, you know, Rob that do touring management for us, especially in in Europe, and also Ruben that do touring for us in South America and USA. They, you know, that's good guys that always, you know, make sure things is somewhat okay, even though there is always some problems when traveling around as a band. There is always something jumping up at on you, but I guess that's life.
How long did the construction of Cross Sound Studio take? Did you do it all by yourself?
Yep, everything. It took me like, I think I spent like 2 years building the actual building from the ground up. Everything in the studio I've made myself with my own hands. I've always done that since I was a kid, because I'm grown up on the countryside. So when I was a kid, you know, before the music took me away, so to speak, I was always out in the forest, nature, making, you know, whatever with my knife, cutting huts and everything, you know, climbing trees and making, you know, all kinds of stuff. That's my way of relaxing. That is doing something with my hands to make something, even if it's woodwork or whatever it is. So yeah, I built this building like from the ground up, I think about 2 years. My father was an architect, so he drew the whole building, and then we started to build it together. And unfortunately, he became sick in the mid of the process, so I had to finish off the building myself, though. But yeah, I did everything, and then I've used quite some years to, you know, buy the right equipment, the right monitors. I've, you know, upgraded all my equipment to mastering grade stuff, studio. So I have like PMC monitors, like high-end stuff, and I've spent a lot of time to finding the right tools, so to speak. I mean, there is so many things in a studio, and it's expensive, of course, and all that. So I spent a lot of time to try to find the perfect setup, so to speak, for at least my work. You know, when I first started out building this studio, it was basically because I wanted to have a own studio with my own guitar, you know, my own music and my guitars and all the stuff going on here. But once kind of the studio was up and running and stuff, I started to do small things for other people. And nowadays I do quite a lot of productions for other people as well. So, you know, that's fun. And the funny thing is that it's also kind of creative work, and I kind of enjoy it a lot, actually, to get, you know, recordings from bands, talk with bands about what they think, what their wishes they have for the music and stuff like that, and try to do that for people. And I think it's really fun, and it's also inspiring, I would say. It kind of reflects a little bit back on my own music in a sense, because I quite simply work a lot more with music in general nowadays than I did before, even though I've always worked a lot with music. But now it's like 24/7, and it's a lifestyle. I love it. It's great. So it's very fun and rewarding, and all that. I mean, to also help other bands to succeed with the records, to make something that doesn't sound so good to something that really sounds good, in a sense. Because, you know, our recorded guitar doesn't sound necessarily good at all. But once you treat it, once you put it into a mix, once you start to get the whole sound picture, so to speak, it feels, it gives me a little bit of the same feeling as when I make music myself, because it's about being creative. It's about building something from ground up. Again, you know, that's my lifestyle in a sense. I've always been very much into processes. I've always enjoyed building things, doing stuff, making albums. Once the album is out, I'm kind of done with it. I'm ready for the next one, because, you know, when Lord of the Rings came out back in the day and everybody was running to the cinemas to watch it, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I have to see it myself. But I found the documentaries about, you know, behind the scenes way more interesting. So I've always been a process guy, so to speak. I like the process of things. I like to be what I call on a journey, musical or whatever it is. I just like to be in motion, like to be in the process of things, like to do something, create something, to have a goal somewhere. If not, I'm very fast, very bored, so to speak. Yeah, and then I get grumpy, and that's not a good thing.
Perfect, Oystein. These were all the questions I had for you today. I hope you had a good time with us.
Definitely.
I would like you to say something to the people who are watching us to finish.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who is watching this, and hopefully some people find it some meaning into all this I'm talking. And we really hope that, everybody is safe around the world, in regards to the corona situation. We really hope, of course, that everybody else, that it will be over soon, that we go back touring and stuff like that. We are kind of holding our breath now because we really want to get back on the road. And one of the places we really want to go is South America, and USA, and everybody, every place is really, but we are really kind of firing up now to get back on the road, to make new music, to new album and all that, and let's just hope for a better world soon for everybody. And take care to everybody.
Thank you, Oystein. See you soon.
See you
Bye.
soon. Bye bye.